Tyranid faction focus. So I think, I'm not sure if someone was saying anything in the chat on the last one or not, but was still trying to figure out, now that I'm broadcasting to Twitch and YouTube at the same time, exactly how to make the chat thing work. So if I'm ignoring anybody, it's not intentional. So let's get into the Tyranid faction focus. They're going to be in the box with the Marines. Some of the new models look really cool. Played Tyranids back in the day. Got some random Gene Stealers still laying around. Definitely considering possibly that being one of my next projects, but we'll see how that goes. So the Great Devourer. Many of the more self-important factions have a complex, indestructible motivations, but not the Tyranids. These galaxy-spanning nightmares from the dark beyond, there's only one directive: consume. And they're good at it. Alright, so new Screamer Killer looks amazing. That was one of my favorite models from before. The Tyranid Venom Crawler. I'm not sure how I feel about that thing. This guy looks pretty dang cool. What's he, somebody said it was Flying Prime or something like that. Tyranids are ravening monsters who devour worlds in a chitinous tide. Imagine they test the mettle of even hardened veterans. Accordingly, they have several ways to apply Battle Shock tests. That's very strong. Battle Shock is going to be super impactful, I believe. I've said that in the other videos as well. Alright, so let's look at some of their things. So, Hyper Adaptations. Let's go check that out. That's the one they showed us in the other preview. So this is just the basic Tyranid Invasion Fleet Detachment rule. So this isn't the Tyranid rule. This is for the specific detachment. So at the start of the first battle round, select one of the following hyper adaptations to be active for Tyranid units from your army until the end of the battle. So you get to start at the first battle round. So adapting to what you're fighting, always solid. Swarming Instincts. Each time a Tyranid model with this hyper adaptation makes an attack that targets an enemy infantry or swarm unit, the attack has a sustained hits 1 ability. That's good depending on what type of nids you're playing. If you're playing swarm nids and playing into an infantry or swarm heavy, by swarm I mean lots of bodies, not actually lots of swarms. The more attacks you have, the more sustained hits matters. So depending on what you're fighting in your army build, that could be very strong. Hyper Aggression. Each time a Tyranid model with this hyper adaptation makes an attack that targets an enemy monster or vehicle unit, attack has a lethal hits ability. So another one that triggers off 6s to hit, auto wounding. So same thing, if you just got hordes of little bodies charging into knights or something, auto wounding them, that could be really solid. Then we got Hive Predators. Each time a Tyranid model with this hyper adaptation makes an attack that targets an enemy character unit, if a critical hit is scored, the attack has the precision ability. So all of these trigger off 6s to hit. So the more attacks you have, the better. And so that just lets you pick characters out of squads. Unless someone's running a super character heavy list, Hive Predators I think is the weakest one. Unless they have just like one key character that their whole army triggers off of, but then they're not gonna let you get to it easily. So Swarming Instincts and Hyper Aggression I think are really good, depending on if you're fighting lots of little guys or monster and vehicles. Pick one of these. Hive Predators I don't see being picked as much, but we'll see. I've been wrong before. Yeah, and this is just saying, yeah, monster vehicles, pick Hyper Aggression. For the Army Tyranids, we Battle Shock with Synapse and Shadow in the Warp. Alright, so then those we have to look over here for. So Tyranids, this is the army rule. This is just Synapse, been a Tyranid thing, I believe as long as they've been an army. So let's see what it does in this edition. If your army faction is Tyranids, while a Tyranid unit from your army is within 6 inches of one or more Synapse models from your army, that unit is said to be within Synapse range of your army. Each time a Tyranid unit from your army takes a Battle Shock test, If it's within synapse range of your army, take the test on 3d6 instead of 2d6. Alright, so you're not auto-passing morale, but you're much more likely to pass it. That's fine, I like that. So they still do have a chance to fail even in synapse range, which is, I'm sure Tyranid players aren't going to be super happy about that, but it was annoying, a lot of these armies that just, oh, I auto always pass morale, and it does nothing. It's just, so now there's a chance. And if they're out of synapse range, they're tested just like everybody else. Alright, so we'll see. That's fairly solid. We'll have to see what some of the leaderships are on some of these units. Synapse creatures now also act as nodes to call the Shadow of the Warp down onto the battlefield, forcing an immediate battle shock test on every unit in your opponent's army. Alright, so while they do have a better chance of failing, they make you take more. So games against Tyranids, battle shock will be very important. Shadow in the Warp. If your army faction is Tyranids, once per battle, in either player's command phase, if one or more units from your army with this ability are on the battlefield, you can unleash the Shadow in the Warp. When you do, each enemy unit on the battlefield must take a battle shock test. That's interesting. So I don't think you pop this turn 1, turning off objective control, because you can't really score turn 1. It does people stop them from getting stratagems or falling back, but this I feel is more like a turn 4 or 5 type game. Turn 3, you're contesting some objectives going into your turn. You pop this, and you hope that, I believe if you fail a battle shock, it goes till the end, until your next turn. So you pop this either in your turn if they're controlling objectives and you're hoping some of them fail and they have more bodies than you don't want it and you're hoping to just take it and get points. Or if you're not on the objective and they have just a bunch of just single units on objectives, pop that, and if they fail a couple battle shocks, they all of a sudden don't control those objectives. Because I'm assuming objectives are still scored at the end of the command phase, so you would pop this first. So that could be very significant. That is, when it works, going to be very strong and can swing a battle completely. Be in perfect position. Tyranid player pops this, couple of horrible battle shock tests, you're not scoring points. Yeah, I really like that. That is super strong. And these are both army rules. So they have 2 army rules. So you're getting these whenever you're Tyranids. Doesn't matter on your detachment. Okay, I think that's really good. Gene Stealers have helped shape the Galaxy War for 1,000 from the early days of space, all lurking in the nightmares of Terminators ever since. They're now twice as hard to put down. Oh, yeah. Alright, cool. Perfect sculling over to key objectives, where the running claws get full wound rerolls, thanks to Vanguard Predator. Alright, let's look at these boys. Moving 8. T4, 5 up save, 2 wounds. That's solid. Now they're double wounds. Leadership 7. That's basically the same as a 7 now. They basically got a 50% chance to pass it. So that's a nerf. So if they get outside of synapse range, you're basically 50-50 shot. Well, just better than 50 of passing. So, okay, that's an only objective control 1. Alright, let's look at their claws. 4 attacks, weapon skill 2, strength 4, neg 2, 1 damage. Solid. Not amazing, not bad. Decent amount of attacks. Good AP, only 1 damage. Hits well. Scouts 8 inches, so they get an 8-inch move per game. That's solid, especially since if Scout is... yeah, you know who goes first when you Scout, so you put them on the line, you don't get it. You Scout back into hiding terrain, you get first turn, you pop out. Now basically you're 16 inches toward the enemy. Alright, Synapse. Vanguard Predator. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack, reroll a wound roll of 1. Alright, so they're always rerolling wounds of 1. If the target is within range of an objective marker, you can roll all the wound rolls instead. Alright, so if you're actually in range of an objective, you get to reroll all your wounds. Solid. Invulnerable save 5+. Not amazing, not bad. Very solid unit. Very useful. Don't see anything wrong with that, as long as they're pointed accordingly. Infantry, Great Devourer Gene Stealers. Faction words, Tyranids. Keyword, the Great Devourer. I don't know if we saw what that means or that's for. Then we got old Swarmlord. Let's see what he does. Movement 8, Toughness 10, 2-up save, 10 wounds, Leadership 7, Objective Control 3. So not a very good leadership, but he'll always be in Synapse, he'll always be testing on 36, so that's probably why. Objective Control 3. Okay. Gilliman had a 4, so basically he's a step down from Gilliman in Objective Control. Ranged weapon, Synaptic Pulse, Psychic, Torrent. Alright, so Psychic just means it's a psychic power. I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything special about the Psychic keyword other than it just tells you it's a psychic power. We'll see if there's anything that trigger off it, if like Sisters of Silence or any of those type of units. Or immune from it, like Colossuses can't be targeted by psychic attacks. If anything. So we'll see what the psychic keyword actually does. I haven't seen it mean anything yet, but I'm sure it does. Torrent means auto hit, which is very good. So 18-inch range, D6 plus 3 auto hits. No ballistic skill because it auto hits. Strength 5, neg 1, 2 damage. Solid. Bone Sabers, twin linked, so you're rerolling your wounds. 8 attacks, weapon skill 2, strength 9, neg 2, 3 damage. Very solid. Hitting on 2s. Rerolling the wound at strength 9. You should be wounding pretty much everything. Yeah, that's solid profiles there. Deadly Demise D3, leader, so he's going to be able to join units. Probably something like Tyrant Guard, see if there's other things. Shadow and Warp Synapse, so went over those earlier. Very solid rules. How to start your command phase. If this model's on the battle phase, you gain 1 CP. Very strong. CP is always useful. Malign Presence. Once per battle, after your opponent uses a stratagem, this model is your Warlord, or so he has to be the Warlord, and is on the battlefield. You can use this ability. If it does, until the end of the battle, increase that stratagem cost to your opponent by 1 CP. Oh, that's strong. So if they have a key strat, you know they're going to want to spam against you. You pop that, like the Fight on Death one. It's already 2. Make them spend 3 if you know if you built a really combat heavy list. Right, that's useful. Domination of the Hive Mind. While a friendly Tyranid unit is within 9 inches of this model, that unit is within your army synapse. Or so 9-inch synapse instead of 6. That's very useful. Nothing like super game-changing or broken here. Solid profiles, useful abilities for pinball. I like it. He's very solid. Gives you lots of game affecting, decent damage, decently survivable. I have no complaints about the Swarmlord. Now we get to look at some of the weapons. Look at the Rupture Cannon. This is on the TyranidFaction. Yep. 48-inch range, 60-inch board. You're probably in range most of the time, as long as you can see. 2 attacks, Bush Skill 3, Strength 18. So that's ruining Rhinos on 2s. So all the low Strength 9 or Toughness 9, like Rhino type vehicles, you're winning on 2s. Everything else looks like you're winning on 3s, vehicle wise. Neg 4 AP, 2d6 damage. Right. I'd prefer like d6 plus 4 to 2d6, but you have that potential to get that 12. But you also have that potential to get that 2. Payloads gets tougher vehicle to counter. Alright, now they're giving us a stratagem, Endless Multitude. Your command phase, up to 2 Endless Multitude units from your army that are within synapse range of your army, or 1 other Endless Multitude unit from your army. Up to D3 plus 3 models are returned easily selected units. Alright, so you keep units in synapse. You're basically bringing between 6 and 4 back to each unit, average of 5. So you're averaging 10 models back. That's per turn, 1 CP. Swarm, if you have swarming, he auto gives you one. So you just use that each time you need to. Just keep bodies on the table. That's endless multitude. So we'll see who has endless multitude. I don't believe the Gene Stealers did. They do not, but I'm assuming like most of the Gaunts will. Like Hormagaunts, Termagaunts. We'll see if there's new way. The Neurogaunts get it. Maybe Rippers get it. So that's... I really like that strat, especially for 1 CP when Swarmy's giving you one. It's basically almost the same as a free CP. Yeah, Tyranids, very solid. Damage-wise, they look okay, but their battle shock testing is really good. Like forcing people to take that battle shock. If they fail, like that is going to be super strong. Like if they fail those couple key battle shocks, you go from a tight game to now they're really behind and they're having to dig out of it. Or you're slightly behind, boom, now you're back even and it's a fight again on points. Like honestly, I think Shadow in the Warp is the strongest thing I've seen for the Tyranids. But alright, that's that. I'll be coming back in a little bit with